Welcome to Zodiac Talks Tarot, where we retire glittery cliches and speak to real life with clear eyes and a warm spine. Today we are diving into Sagittarius and the strange sensation that the universe owes you a refund for services rendered, a cosmic direct deposit that somehow missed your account while you were busy carrying half the people you love and 3 grand ideas on your back. Consider this your informed notice that the transfer is finally processing. And while I can't promise the bank app chime, I can promise the more valuable thing behind it: an alignment of timing, self-worth, and the calm confidence that arrives when you stop hustling for permission and start living like you already belong at the table. I say this not as a fortune peddler but as a longtime researcher of astrology and human behavior who has watched Sagittarius again and again treat comfort like a suspicious salesman at the door, preferring motion over stagnation, growth over agreement, and meaning over metals, which is heroic and occasionally expensive. Your fire sign metabolism wants horizons, not walls, and you would rather be broke and honest than rich and rehearsed. But here is the paradox I've observed in charts and in life: the same independence that built your character sometimes delayed your harvest, because when you sprint from one cliff of possibility to the next, you don't always stop long enough to gather what the previous leap made ripe. No, you're not being punished by fate. You've been refined by it. Think of the year of triumph 2025 not as a slot machine jackpot but as the moment the long audit of your efforts closes in your favor, a season when money follows integrity the way rivers follow gravity. Psychologically, this shift begins when you stop performing competence to prove you're worthy of oxygen and begin receiving support like it's part of the natural order, because it is. Spiritually, since I promised a touch of Buddhist common sense, the issue has never been money itself but clinging, and the cure is not ascetic self-denial or chaotic overspending but right relationship. Let money flow as a servant to purpose, not a substitute for it. When I meditate on the 8 of Pentacles reversed as a mirror for human effort, I see the classic SAG story: work poured into vision, generosity offered without a meter running, coins rolling off the workbench because your attention already flew to the next bright problem to solve. So the lesson isn't care less, it's collect more, which is to say, value the harvest with the same enthusiasm you bring to the planting. Call it cosmic escrow if you like. The universe did not lose your earnings, it held them until you could receive without guilt, until you could say yes without silently apologizing for wanting both freedom and stability. I know, that sounds like the punchline to a joke you've heard at least twice. How does a Sagittarius save money? By buying a plane ticket to think about it. But the deeper truth is that your curiosity is not the enemy of wealth, your unbounded generosity without boundaries is. And the remedy is beautifully unromantic: build a gate, choose what crosses, price your gifts where they can sustain you, watch how your nervous system settles when your calendar reflects your values and your rates reflect your mastery. In that state, opportunities arrive that would have bounced off you before, because calm is the doorway through which recognition likes to walk. Audiences notice, clients return, mentors appear. The project no one understood last year suddenly makes sense in the new market weather, and what looks from the outside like luck is simply the moment preparation finds an open lane. I've seen it in data and in people. When attention isn't hijacked by scarcity, creativity blooms, and when creativity blooms, value becomes visible. So take this as your sober invitation and slightly playful nudge: let the refund clear, let the applause come with the invoice. Let the next leap include a landing, and if anyone tries to tell you that prosperity will ruin your wild heart, the turning point for Sagittarius is not a miracle falling from the clouds but a quiet, deliberate moment when effort finally meets readiness. In astrology, the Ace of Pentacles often represents a seed of opportunity, yet it is never a seed you chase. It lands when your hands stop gripping the old soil. After years of studying how ambition, psychology, and cosmic timing intertwine, I can tell you this: the universe does not reward noise, it rewards alignment. You, Sagittarius, have learned expansion as theory, reading about growth, talking about purpose, romanticizing freedom, but now life is asking you to practice it as lived experience. The chosen ones, as some mystics call them, are not the luckiest people, they are the ones who kept showing up when nothing seemed to move. Scarcity has not been your punishment, it has been your postgraduate course in understanding abundance without attachment. You were never meant to become a preacher of fortune, you were meant to embody faith itself. The Year of Triumph 2025 opens as your audit season, where back pay, cosmic or literal, finds its way home. Debts are balanced through channels you did not know existed, the friend who finally repays a kindness, the idea you abandoned that suddenly earns interest, the world rediscovering your worth after years of underestimation. If that sounds mystical, let's switch to psychology. When you stop chasing outcomes, your nervous system calms, and in that calm, you notice solutions that adrenaline would have blinded you to. What looks like magic is often biology performing at its best. Neuroscience, in its own way, is proof that grace has a measurable pulse. Sagittarius, you have a habit of working in silence while pretending you don't care if anyone notices. You do care, but you prefer truth over flattery. The Six of Wands, a symbol of recognition, appears when the invisible labor of the soul becomes visible to the world. This is the moment in the hero's journey when the wanderer comes home, not seeking applause but accidentally earning it. Those nights you spent perfecting ideas that no one understood, those essays, classes, or projects you released into the void, they are now echoing in new rooms. Clients who once ghosted you will resurface. Co-workers will reference your insight as if it were their own discovery, and doors will open where walls once stood. You might be tempted to laugh and say, well, about time. Go ahead. The universe appreciates your sense of humor. Recognition is rarely punctual, but it never forgets the address. From a sociological perspective, Sagittarius is the philosopher of the Zodiac, the one who connects meaning to motion. Yet that same restlessness can make you doubt your own authority. You assume others must have more data, more experience, more credentials, when in truth, they have simply been louder. Your humility, while charming, has occasionally cost you visibility. But 2025 is not a year for hiding behind modesty, it is a year for standing up as evidence of what patience and sincerity look like when they finally mature. You don't need to shout to be seen. The world is already leaning in. If you notice an influx of opportunities, promotions, invitations, partnerships, or perhaps just a steadier rhythm to your days, don't dismiss it as coincidence. That is the universe balancing its books. Consider it a reimbursement for all those years you showed up without an audience. For once, let life overpay you. And because Sagittarius humor thrives on cosmic irony, here is one: the more you relax into receiving, the faster things arrive. You spent half your life sprinting toward goals that now stroll to your doorstep. The universe is teaching you the art of not interfering with your own blessings. This is your turning point, the place where chasing ends and magnetism begins. So, when you feel that shift, when an old project revives, when a compliment hits deeper than expected, when a door opens that you forgot you knocked on, pause. Take the win, not as fluke but as confirmation. The cosmos has finally cleared your tab. The interest has been paid in full. And this time, Sagittarius, the world is watching. For Sagittarius, the greatest struggle has never really been money itself, it's been the strange cocktail of guilt and rebellion that comes with it. Somewhere between your first philosophy book and your last spontaneous road trip, you picked up the idea that wanting money was somehow a betrayal of your free spirit. Maybe you heard that wealth kills curiosity, that security dulls adventure, or that enlightened people live on air and gratitude alone. That, my dear Archer, isn't wisdom, it's programming. You didn't come to Earth to suffer beautifully, you came to live expansively. And while I've spent decades studying both astrology and psychology, I can tell you that this mental block about money is less spiritual than it is cultural. Society taught you to romanticize the struggle, to wear lack like a badge of honor. It told you that abundance makes people arrogant and that freedom only exists outside the system. But what if the real rebellion is learning to receive without guilt? From a Buddhist perspective, the problem isn't wealth, it's attachment. Clinging to money out of fear is as unhealthy as rejecting it out of pride. When you treat money as energy rather than ego, it flows like breath, in, out, constant, renewing. The issue is never that the universe doesn't send enough, it's that we block the flow by labeling abundance as unspiritual. Sagittarius, you've been rich in experience, yet chronically underpaid in peace. You can backpack across continents on a shoestring but still panic when the rent's due. You've mastered the art of meaning, but not always the management of means. That imbalance ends now. The symbolic Five of Pentacles standing out in the cold, believing everyone else got the invitation to the feast has done its job. You're no longer the philosopher staring through stained glass at other people's light, you are realizing your glow has been leaking through the cracks all along. The new chapter isn't about chasing, it's about receiving consciously. You've earned enough karma points to retire from the unpaid internship of the universe. And yes, before you ask, this also means saying no to offers that promise great exposure. Exposure doesn't pay the bills, Sagittarius, it just gives you metaphorical frostbite. There's a difference between generosity and martyrdom, and the stars are practically screaming for you to learn it. True service doesn't require self-depletion. You can inspire the world better when you're not running on fumes. Now, here's where even a seasoned astrologer like me gets a little giddy. Enter the Wheel of Fortune, one of those cards that, when it turns, tends to knock the dust off destiny. It's not random luck, it's timing with exquisite precision. The universe has been adjusting its clock, waiting for you to stop funding everyone else's dream long enough to notice your own. If abundance had arrived earlier, you might have handed it out like party favors to people who didn't even RSVP to your growth. But now you're wiser. You've learned that compassion without boundaries is just a leak in the tank. You, Sagittarius, are part of the chosen one's souls who endured delay not as punishment but as preparation. Every time you helped someone find direction while feeling lost yourself, every favor you gave without thanks, every night you stayed up polishing an idea that no one paid for, all of it was logged in your cosmic ledger. The universe is meticulous like that. And interest has been accumulating. What's coming back to you now won't only arrive in the form of cash, though that's part of it. It will appear as open doors, new allies, second chances, creative bursts, and an unshakable sense that life is finally collaborating with you instead of testing you. If you need a modern metaphor, think of life as a long video game. You've been stuck replaying the same level, dodging bills, fixing other people's messes, mastering patience like it's a superpower. But now you're reaching the cutscene. The screen brightens, the music swells, and the words flash across, achievement unlocked, delayed but destined. That's the universe handing you the treasure chest it promised seasons ago. Inside isn't just gold, it's peace of mind, validation, and that subtle but unmistakable feeling that you've been right to believe all along. The trick now is to spend wisely, energetically and materially. Remember, karma doesn't just pay you, it expects stewardship. The wealth coming your way isn't here to fund ego trips or temporary highs. It's meant to anchor your freedom, not replace it. You'll find that with stability comes an even deeper kind of adventure, the kind that doesn't rely on escape but thrives in grounded joy. So breathe. Let the guilt go. Let the story of the starving sage expire. You've already done your time in the monastery of scarcity. Now, the world is ready to see what happens when a Sagittarius finally allows abundance to serve its highest purpose, to give you room to expand, to teach, to wander, and to laugh louder than fear. Because yes, enlightenment looks good on you, but it looks even better when it's well fed and fully funded. The Empress represents that long-awaited moment when abundance stops being a dream and becomes an ecosystem. After the long drought comes the question every philosopher secretly dreads: now that the floodgates are open, what do you actually do with all this potential? The Empress doesn't hand out lottery tickets, she hands you seeds. She whispers that this season of your life is not about accumulating more but about multiplying what already lives within you. For Sagittarius, that is both thrilling and terrifying. You were never built for the 9-to-5 treadmill, you were built for the open road, the classroom of chaos, the endless quest for meaning. Grinding endlessly was never your design. Growing endlessly was. There's a difference, though it sometimes takes a few emotional bruises to recognize it. Your mind has always been fertile ground, Sagittarius, half university, half carnival. Every passion you've nurtured, every tangent that pulled you into new worlds, languages, travel, teaching, philosophy, even those half-written journal entries or late-night monologues about truth and freedom, those are your crops, and the harvest season is here. The year of triumph 2025 doesn't want you to hoard coins, it wants you to cultivate purpose, to turn curiosity into currency. Maybe your love of languages transforms into teaching or translation. Maybe your obsession with travel becomes storytelling that inspires others to move, literally and spiritually. Maybe those philosophical rants your friends endured at midnight morph into a podcast, a course, or even a book that actually pays your bills. And in typical Sagittarius fashion, you'll probably laugh your way through the process, half amused that it's finally happening, half suspicious that the universe must have made a clerical error in your favor. But that's the magic of it, you didn't manifest abundance by force, you simply stopped resisting it. You finally unclenched your fists long enough for grace to land. Of course, with new success comes new complications, and here's where the Seven of Swords reversed steps in like a security guard at the velvet rope of your destiny. Let's talk boundaries, Sagittarius, because the brighter your glow, the bigger the moth population. Not everyone who claps for you is rooting for you, some just like the sound. You have a heart that could fund a small nation if empathy were currency, but generosity without discernment is just emotional bankruptcy. As the financial blessings arrive, practice compassionate distance. You're not required to sponsor every sob story that finds your inbox. You don't owe emotional labor to every energy vampire who disguises manipulation as need. Sometimes the most enlightened thing you can say is no, preferably with a smile and perhaps a flight booked immediately afterward. And beware of the modern snake oil pitch, those guaranteed returns that promise profit faster than your ruling planet Jupiter spins in retrograde. If it sounds too good to be true, it's not a test from the universe, it's a test from common sense. Trust that intuition of yours, it's been refined by both heartbreak and humor, which makes it far more accurate than any spreadsheet. You can tell the difference between aligned opportunities and energetic parasites by how your body feels. If peace expands in your chest, it's a yes. If your stomach tightens like a bad premonition, it's the universe whispering, "Not this one, sweetheart." Now, after all this talk about money and boundaries, let's get to the real treasure, the healing that comes through abundance. The star follows the tower for a reason. You've already had your collapse, the phase when life stripped away everything you thought defined you. That's what the tower does, it removes the costume so the soul can breathe. The star, then, is the dawn after the wreckage, pouring light exactly where despair once sat. You're stepping into that era now, Sagittarius, the one where you trust life again, maybe for the first time in years. The tension that's lived in your shoulders, that constant worry about how you'll sustain your dreams, begins to dissolve. Sleep comes easier. Joy stops asking permission. You start making plans not out of panic but from genuine excitement. Some of you will feel this shift so deeply that it moves you to tears. When the overdue blessing finally lands, be it money, recognition, or inner calm, you may cry not from joy but from the release of decades of silent endurance. But remember, the true currency isn't money at all, it's peace. Peace that allows creativity to flow without fear. Peace that lets you sit still without guilt. Peace that makes laughter your natural state again. A Buddhist once said, "When the heart is unclenched, even emptiness feels full." In your case, Sagittarius, the inverse will be true. When the heart is open, even fullness feels light. Abundance will no longer feel like a weight you have to manage but like a current that moves through you, feeding every corner of your life. This is your new normal, creative expansion balanced by clear boundaries, generosity seasoned with discernment, abundance anchored in humility. You're not here to chase success, you're here to cultivate it. The Empress, the Seven of Swords, and the Star together tell a single story. The artist has grown up, the optimist has learned strategy, and the dreamer has discovered discipline. You are not becoming someone else, you are finally becoming whole. And if the process still feels too serious, just remember this is Sagittarius season in spirit. You can turn any crisis into a comedy, any ending into a lesson, and any miracle into a good story. So go ahead, laugh a little at the absurdity of it all. After all, enlightenment is just wisdom with a sense of humor. The Ten of Cups is what I call the quiet climax of a life that has finally balanced the spiritual checkbook. Picture it, a year from now, you're somewhere new, maybe abroad under foreign stars, maybe at a dinner table with people who don't just tolerate you but truly see you, and you have that rare moment of realization that sneaks up like déjà vu. You exhale and think, so this is it. This is what I was chasing all along. That's your Ten of Cups moment. It's not about champagne towers or luxury yachts, it's about enoughness. The feeling that your life fits you, that peace doesn't have to be dramatic to be profound. Money can't buy happiness, but it does buy breathing room, and that's where joy finally has space to stretch its legs. Financial ease doesn't make you shallow, it makes you available. It gives you permission to say yes to life without that background hum of anxiety. It lets you help others without depletion, love without negotiation, and explore the world without trying to escape from it. What you're entering now, Sagittarius, is not just wealth, it's wholeness, a holistic abundance that nourishes the mental, emotional, and spiritual all at once. And here's the irony only an astrologer could appreciate: when Sagittarius heals their relationship with money, the world around them follows suit. Because you're the Zodiac's philosopher-comedian, your laughter carries theology. Your optimism doesn't just warm rooms, it redefines them. People watch you merge joy and success, and something ancient inside them unclenches. You become living proof that wealth and wisdom can dance without one stepping on the other's feet. You've always been the teacher who doesn't preach, the rebel who accidentally inspires order. When you learn to receive abundance without guilt, others finally believe it's possible. Still, before you float off on a cloud of enlightenment, let's get practical. Even miracles require good management. The universe might drop a gift on your doorstep, but it's not going to balance your checkbook. First, face your finances. Open the accounts, confront the numbers, look at what's actually there. You can't alchemize what you refuse to see. In Buddhist terms, awareness is the first act of liberation. In financial terms, it's the first step to solvency. Second, upgrade your identity. Act like someone who already has enough, not through reckless spending, but through what I call energetic elegance. Walk, speak, and plan as if abundance is your native language, not a foreign dialect you're struggling to pronounce. Third, declutter your space. Energy, like water, hates obstacles. That old wallet full of expired receipts? That's not nostalgia, it's stagnation. Clear it out, because prosperity loves order the way a cat loves sunlight. Fourth, practice gratitude every single day. You don't attract more by complaining about less. The fastest magnet for blessings is noticing the ones you already have. Gratitude shifts your energy from needing to receiving, from hunger to readiness. And fifth, protect your frequency. There are entire social circles built on chronic scarcity, and they're more contagious than the flu. Avoid people who make cynicism sound like sophistication. Their energy will bankrupt your motivation faster than any bad investment. Finally, stay curious. Your Sagittarius curiosity is your natural currency. Every leap of wonder you take tends to land on an opportunity. Keep learning, exploring, experimenting. The next idea that funds your freedom may arrive from the unlikeliest corner of your curiosity. Now let's talk about the Judgment card, the rebirth of self-worth, the cosmic wake-up call that doesn't whisper, it reverberates. Real transformation doesn't come from wealth, it comes from the decision to stop living small. For years you've played tug-of-war between freedom and security, as though you had to choose one or risk spiritual betrayal. But the universe never asked you to pick, it asked you to integrate. The Judgment energy invites you to step into a new archetype, the grounded philosopher, the wandering sage who finally realizes that dreaming and delivering are not opposites but stages of the same breath. You're becoming the person who travels not to escape home but to expand it. From a psychological view, this phase is about internal permission. You no longer seek external validation to justify your desires. Your mind, once scattered across continents of ideas, is aligning around purpose. When awareness expands, intuition sharpens. You'll start knowing things before they unfold, not because you've turned psychic, but because your perception has finally cleared. You've tuned your inner compass. And this time, wealth will not seduce you, it will serve you. You'll handle it the way a musician handles an instrument, with discipline, joy, and reverence. It's funny, though Sagittarians have always been better at philosophy than logistics. You can debate Aristotle in a cafe but forget to pay the parking meter outside. You can give the perfect lecture on abundance while your Wi-Fi bill goes unpaid. But that's what makes this next chapter so poetic. Your ideals are finally meeting your infrastructure. You're learning that spirituality doesn't exclude structure, it depends on it. Freedom without form is just chaos in better clothes. So this is your moment to blend the two, to let discipline become an act of devotion. As a researcher who's watched hundreds of Sagittarius charts play out, I'll say this with confidence, you're entering the phase where faith becomes strategy. You'll no longer chase proof, you'll embody it. You'll stop seeing money as a test of morality and start viewing it as a vehicle for meaning. From this point forward, you won't measure success by how much you gain but by how gracefully you circulate it. Wealth will flow through you the way wisdom does, naturally, joyfully, and with that signature Sagittarian humor that makes even serious truths easier to swallow. So when the next opportunity knocks, open the door with both confidence and curiosity. The life you've been building quietly through patience, resilience, and a dozen misadventures is ready to stabilize. You're not becoming someone else, you're becoming someone whole. And if you ever doubt that you deserve this peace, remember, the 10 of Cups isn't a reward for perfection, it's a mirror for balance. It's the moment you realize that joy doesn't need fixing, success doesn't need apology, and enoughness is the most luxurious feeling in the world. And so, Sagittarius, we arrive at the world, the final card, the long exhale, the cosmic graduation photo where you finally realize the ceremony was never about the diploma but about who you became while earning it. This is the moment when the narrative threads of your life, tangled and confusing for years, weave into something that suddenly makes sense. You'll look back at 2024 and the beginning of 2025 with new eyes and see that every delay was choreography. Every disappointment, every detour, every frustrating not yet was the universe setting the stage for something that required your full maturity to receive. The missing money, the missed opportunities, the waiting, it was never gone. It was simply buffering, like a divine loading screen for a life about to unfold in high definition. And now, it's here, not just showing up in your bank account, but saturating your energy, your relationships, and your sense of freedom. The World card is about integration. It's the point where all your fragments stop fighting each other and start harmonizing. You finally understand that success isn't a trophy, it's a frequency you've learned to maintain. You don't chase it anymore, you embody it. You walk through life with the quiet authority of someone who has wrestled with doubt and won. This kind of fulfillment isn't loud. It doesn't need a parade. It's the soft grin you wear when you realize you've become the version of yourself your younger self was dreaming about. And of course, in true Sagittarius fashion, you won't keep this wisdom to yourself. You never do. The archer in you can't help but aim truth into the world. You'll share your story, not out of vanity, but as an act of service. You'll become a lighthouse for those still wandering through their own storms, a walking reminder that patience, humor, and faith are not outdated virtues but survival tools for the soul. People will see your light and mistake it for luck, but you'll know better. It's timing. It's divine symmetry. It's what happens when persistence outlasts discouragement. If you've stayed with me this far, understand this wasn't random. You were meant to hear it now. The universe doesn't deliver messages to bored listeners, it delivers them to ready souls. The chosen ones, as I like to call them, are those who endure long enough to prove that endurance itself is magic. And you, Sagittarius, have earned your abundance the hard way, through compassion that didn't make sense, optimism that outlived logic, and laughter that cracked open even the darkest days. You have walked through years that could have hardened you, yet somehow you've emerged softer, wiser, and infinitely more magnetic. The year of triumph 2025 isn't just a line in the stars, it's your invitation to live what you've always preached. Faith isn't naive, it's gravitational. It draws miracles the way light draws moths. So when your blessings start to arrive, and they will receive them the way you'd receive the morning sun, without apology, without disbelief, just warmth. You don't owe the universe guilt for saying yes to its gifts. Use what comes to build, to bless, to explore. Travel again, not to escape your life, but to celebrate it. Create, teach, mentor, rest, laugh, do all the things that make you feel most alive, because that aliveness is your true wealth. And remember this, fortune doesn't change who you are, it simply amplifies what's already there. For someone like you, curious, generous, unafraid, that's good news. Prosperity will not spoil you, it will spotlight your natural generosity. Success won't trap you, it will give you wider skies to roam. You are, and have always been, the embodiment of expansion itself, freedom wrapped in fire. The universe never forgot you, Sagittarius. It was simply saving your place. Your seat at the grand table of destiny has been waiting, and now, it's time to sit down and enjoy what you helped prepare. So here's my parting advice as a fellow researcher of stars and souls, savor this. Don't rush past your own joy in search of the next horizon. Let yourself celebrate not with noise, but with awareness. You've earned the right to live abundantly, to laugh too loudly, to love too freely. Life was never meant to be endured, it was meant to be experienced in full color. If this message found you at the right moment, take it as confirmation, not coincidence. You, dear Sagittarius, are one of the chosen ones whose patience is finally paying off. Welcome to your year of triumph 2025. And before you go, if this journey resonated with you, don't forget to support the space that supports your spirit. Like the video, share it with someone who needs a reminder that divine timing is real, and subscribe to Zodiac Talks Tarot, where we turn astrology into wisdom you can actually live by. Because your story, Sagittarius, is just getting started and the world is ready for your next chapter.